Have you ever asked yourself why you feel burdened by the successes, opinions, or timelines of others? Why your heart feels heavy when someone else seems ahead? Or why you lose focus trying to match their pace? In Islam, we are taught that true peace does not come from looking at what others have, but from understanding what Allah has written for us. Each person's journey is crafted with divine precision, and Allah never makes mistakes. He created you, He knows your struggles, and He has a plan just for you. The Quran reminds us, and that there is not for man except that good for which he strives. This is the foundation of focusing on yourself, to strive sincerely in your own lane, trusting that what is yours will never miss you. The Prophet Muhammad was surrounded by people who doubted him, mocked him, and questioned his mission, but he never allowed their judgments to distract him. In the early days of Islam, when he was just one man, calling to the oneness of Allah in a society steeped in idol worship, he remained focused. He didn't look at the support others had or the power they held. He looked at his relationship with Allah, and he walked forward with certainty in his plan. When you constantly measure your worth by comparing your life to others, you trap yourself in a cycle of disappointment. You weren't created to walk their path. You were created to fulfill your own purpose. You were created to worship Allah in your unique circumstances, in your own time, and with your own tests. Allah is not judging you by how fast you move, but by the sincerity of your heart. When you focus on improving yourself, on repenting often, on strengthening your connection with Allah, that's when transformation begins. After the Prophet lost Khadijah and his uncle Abu Talib in the same year, it became known as the year of sorrow. His external support was gone, but he didn't give up. Instead, he turned inward. He traveled to Taif, seeking new ways to carry out the message of Islam. Even though he was rejected and stoned, in that moment, he didn't focus on why people didn't help him. He focused on his responsibility and his trust in Allah's wisdom. Allah knows your quiet efforts, your private tears, your daily battles that no one else sees. When you focus on yourself, you give yourself permission to grow without the weight of public validation. You stop asking, why not me? And start asking, how can I become who Allah wants me to be? That shift changes everything. It brings your heart back to Allah. It calms the comparison, and it silences the need to prove yourself. When the Prophet was in the cave of Tawr during the Hijrah, with the enemies of Quraysh right outside, he didn't panic. He said to Abu Bakr, do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us. Surah At-Tawbah 940. He wasn't focused on the numbers or the danger. His heart was focused solely on the presence of Allah. That's what it means to live with Tawakkul. To know that success is not determined by others' opinions or outcomes, but by your trust in your Lord. The world is full of noise, opinions, comparisons, and distractions. But your heart was made for silence, the kind of silence where you remember your purpose, where you reconnect with your Creator, and where you focus on becoming the servant Allah loves. You don't need to be the loudest, the fastest, or the most praised. You only need to be sincere. That sincerity begins when you turn away from the world's expectations and turn inward to focus on yourself for the sake of Allah. Have you ever tried to give love, care, or energy to others while feeling completely empty inside? Islam teaches us that the heart is the center of everything. Our faith, our intentions, and our strength. When the heart is neglected, everything else begins to fall apart. The Prophet said, indeed, in the body there is a piece of flesh. If it is sound, the whole body is sound, and if it is corrupt, the whole body is corrupt. Indeed, it is the heart, Bukhari and Muslim. You cannot pour from an empty heart. You must fill it with light, with dhikr, with Qur'an, with healing. You must focus on yourself, not out of selfishness, but out of sincerity, because only a soul that is spiritually nourished can be truly beneficial to others. The Prophet Muhammad, even in the busiest moments of his life, took time for personal worship and reflection. Before Fajr, he would wake in the stillness of the night to stand before Allah, seeking strength and peace. These moments weren't for public display. They were intimate acts of devotion that strengthened him to face the challenges ahead. He knew that if his connection with Allah was strong, then he could handle whatever came his way. Sometimes we believe that constantly helping others, pleasing people, or staying busy is a sign of righteousness. But in the process, we neglect our own iman. We become tired, overwhelmed, even resentful. Islam doesn't ask you to destroy yourself to serve others. It teaches balance. The Qur'an says, save yourselves and your families from a fire. It starts with yourself, your heart, your soul, your relationship with Allah. You cannot guide your family, your children, or your community unless you are firmly rooted in faith yourself. After the battles of Uhud and Hunain, the Prophet didn't only tend to the injured around him, he also turned to Allah in prayer. He sought strength through connection, not through chaos. He taught the companions that the greatest source of resilience isn't in numbers or weapons, but in a heart anchored by Tawakkul. He showed that healing the soul comes before healing the world. You were never meant to run on empty. You were created to return often to your Lord, to recharge through salah, to cleanse through tawbah, to breathe through recitation. These acts refill the heart. They remind you that you are a servant, not a savior. You don't carry the world, you carry the trust between you and Allah. And when you carry that with sincerity, everything else begins to fall into place. When the Prophet faced loss, hardship, or betrayal, his first response wasn't to blame or to fight back. It was to retreat into the presence of Allah, in the cave, in the night, in the quiet. He showed us that the greatest strength a believer can have is found in solitude with their Lord. You do not need to explain yourself to the world. You need to reconnect with the one who created your soul in the first place. Many people around you may demand your time, your energy, your help. But if you are spiritually weak, if your heart is empty, then you will be helping others from a place of depletion, not sincerity. Focus on yourself, because Allah wants you to be whole. He wants your heart to be alive, not broken. He wants you to stand in front of Him with a soul that is full, not burnt out by trying to please everyone else. True giving comes from a nourished soul, and true nourishment comes from focusing inward, where your iman lives, where your dua rises, where your tawakkul grows. Don't let the pressure of the world distract you from what matters most. You were not created just to serve people. You are created to worship Allah, and through that worship, everything else finds its balance. When you fill your heart with Him, only then can you truly give to others with love, sincerity, and strength. Have you ever exhausted yourself trying to fix people, win their approval, or control how they act? Have you spent nights worrying about how others perceive you, or days feeling broken because someone didn't meet your expectations? The truth is, in Islam, your responsibility begins and ends with you. You are not in control of other people, their choices, their opinions, or their actions. You are only responsible for what you do, how you respond, and what you carry in your heart. Allah says in the Qur'an, no soul bears the burden of another. Surah Isra 17:15. Let that settle in your heart. You are not meant to carry the world. You are meant to focus on yourself and answer only to the one who created you. The Prophet Muhammad faced betrayal, mockery, and rejection from his own people. He didn't chase after those who turned away. He didn't beg for their support or approval. He focused on delivering the message of Islam with sincerity and left the results to Allah. Even when his beloved uncle Abu Talib refused to accept Islam, the Prophet was heartbroken but did not question the decree of Allah. Indeed, O Muhammad, you do not guide whom you like, but Allah guides whom He wills. Surah Al-Qasas 28:56. He taught us that our role is to invite, to advise, to be kind, but not to control. So many hearts are broken today because they place their peace in the hands of others. But people change. They disappoint. They forget. That is the nature of human beings. If you live trying to make everyone happy, you will lose yourself in the process. Islam calls you back to your center. Focus on your worship. Focus on your intentions. Focus on being sincere in your actions. Not for applause, not for recognition, but for the pleasure of Allah. That is where real strength lies. When the Prophet was spreading the message in Makkah, many laughed at him, called him a madman, insulted him in the streets, but he never let their words enter his heart. He focused on staying upright in character, truthful in speech, and constant in prayer. He showed us that our worth does not depend on what others say about us, but on who we are when we stand before Allah in the depths of the night. It is not your job to change people. You cannot force guidance into someone's heart. Even the Prophet, the most beloved to Allah, could not make people believe. What you can do is keep your own heart clean. Protect your soul from the disease of resentment, arrogance, or blame. Keep turning back to Allah with dua, not frustration. Let your tears fall before Him, not in desperation for others to understand you. The Prophet made dua constantly. For his enemies, for his companions, for those who hurt him. He taught that guidance comes only from Allah. So he turned to Allah, not people, for change. He focused on being the best version of himself, regardless of how others treated him. And through that, hearts began to soften, lives began to change. Talam, your time and energy are precious. Don't waste them trying to control what was never in your hands. Redirect that effort into improving your salah, learning your deen, refining your character. Focus on your own accountability, because on the day of judgment, you will stand alone before Allah. No one else's choices will matter, only yours. Release the burden of trying to fix others. Embrace the power Allah has given you over your own soul. That is where real change begins. When you focus on what you can control and you entrust the rest to the one who controls everything. Put your heart in His hands and watch how your peace returns. When was the last time you sat in silence, away from the noise of the world, and truly connected with your Creator? In a world that glorifies constant motion, public image, and external success, it's easy to forget that the real transformation happens in private, when no one is watching, when it's just you and Allah. Islam teaches us that true strength doesn't come from how the world sees you, but from how you stand before your Lord in solitude. The Qur'an tells us, call upon your Lord in humility and privately. Indeed, He does not like transgressors. Surah Al-Araf 7:55. There is a sacred power in private worship that builds a fortress around your soul. It is there, in that hidden connection, where your heart finds strength to face anything in life. The Prophet Muhammad spent long hours in the quiet of the night, rising from his bed to stand before Allah. Even after receiving revelation, even while leading the Ummah, he never neglected his private moments of worship. He wept, he bowed, he begged, not for the eyes of people, but for the nearness of the one who matters most. In the darkness of night, when others slept, he recharged his soul with prayer, and this gave him light to guide others during the day. Many people think that their strength lies in how loud they can be, how much they can accomplish, or how admired they are by others. But the soul doesn't grow in the spotlight, it grows in the unseen moments. In sujood, when your tears soak the prayer mat. In whispered du'as that no one hears but Allah. In the silent recitation of the salah that revives your heart. What you do in private is a reflection of who you really are. The Prophet said, the most beloved deeds to Allah are those that are consistent, even if they are small. Bukhari. It is not about quantity or attention. It's about sincerity and consistency in devotion when no one is watching. After the most difficult moments, like the passing of his wife Khadija or the humiliation at Taif, the Prophet didn't fall into despair. He turned to prayer. He found refuge, not in people, but in the presence of Allah. His strength didn't come from the outside world, but from within, from his private bond with the Most Merciful. This is the heart of Tawakkul. It's knowing that when the world rejects you, Allah still listens. When people let you down, your Lord remains near. You may not be in a position of leadership or have a big platform or receive recognition for your efforts, but never underestimate the power of your private worship. A single sincere sajda, a quiet repentance, a heartfelt dua. These are acts that may open the gates of Allah's mercy in ways you cannot imagine. The Prophet taught us that a man who remembers Allah in seclusion and whose eyes fill with tears will be among those shaded on the day of judgment. What greater proof do we need that Allah values what is hidden even more than what is seen? When you focus on yourself by investing in your private worship, you are building something eternal. You are preparing your soul to stand firm in times of trial. You are feeding your heart the strength it needs to walk through this life with peace. You no longer need applause, approval, or attention. Your validation comes from Allah alone. The Prophet never sought worldly power. He didn't seek comfort in crowds. He sought refuge in the cave of Hira, in the quiet of the night, and in the presence of his Lord. That's where real strength comes from. When you make your private relationship with Allah your priority, everything else in life begins to make sense. You stop chasing love in the wrong places. You stop fearing loss. You begin to live with a heart that trusts deeply, that walks humbly, and that knows if Allah is with you, you have everything you need. Have you ever wondered why you compare your journey to someone else's, even when your heart feels burdened each time you do? Islam teaches us that the path to peace begins with turning inward, with focusing on your own soul rather than being distracted by the lives of others. The Qur'an reminds us, do not wish for that by which Allah has made some of you exceed others. Surah An-Nisa 4:32. Your story is yours alone, written by the one who knows your heart, your trials and your unseen efforts. There is no need to measure your worth by someone else's success, because what Allah has written for you will reach you, and what has missed you was never meant to be yours. The Prophet Muhammad never looked at others with jealousy or resentment. When the people of Taif rejected him and he was left humiliated and bleeding, he did not question why others had comfort while he faced pain. Instead, he turned to Allah and said, "If you are not angry with me, then I do not mind." This level of focus, this surrender, teaches us that true contentment doesn't come from having more than others. It comes from trusting that what Allah has given you is enough for your journey. So many hearts today are restless because they are too busy looking at what others have, their wealth, their beauty, their family, their status, and forgetting the unique blessings they themselves have been given. But what benefit does envy bring? It only steals your peace and blocks your gratitude. The Prophet taught us, beware of envy, for it consumes good deeds just as fire consumes wood. When you focus on others, you lose sight of your own path. When you focus on yourself, you begin to grow, heal, and find purpose in your own story. During the migration to Medina, the Prophet didn't look at what the Quraysh still had in Makkah. He focused on the mission Allah entrusted him with. Even in the cave of Thawr, when danger surrounded them, he remained calm and said to Abu Bakr, "Do not grieve. Indeed, Allah is with us." Surah At-Tawbah 9:40. That is the power of Tawakkul. When you trust that your path is guided by Allah, you stop obsessing over someone else's journey. You realize that what truly matters is not what you don't have, but how you respond to what you do. Your value is not determined by how quickly you reach your goals or how much recognition you receive. It is found in your sincerity, your patience, your perseverance. Sometimes the most beloved people to Allah are those the world overlooks: the quiet worshipper, the humble giver, the one who cries to Allah in the night while the world sleeps. Focus on becoming that person. Focus on polishing your heart, correcting your intentions, and seeking Allah's pleasure even when no one sees. The Prophet said, richness is not having many possessions, but true richness is contentment of the soul. Bukhari alayhi salam. When you look at others, you might see their highlight moments, but you don't see their struggles, their secrets, or their tests. Allah tests each person according to what they can bear. So why compare? Why carry the weight of someone else's life when you have your own soul to care for? When you stop comparing, you begin to live. You begin to see your blessings with clearer eyes. You begin to thank Allah for what He has written for you, rather than questioning why it isn't like someone else's. And that is when your heart becomes light, because it is no longer racing in a race that was never yours. You are walking your own path, one step at a time, with Allah beside you, and that is more than enough. The Prophet showed us that success is not measured by material gain, but by steadfastness, humility, and trust in Allah. When your heart focuses on becoming better rather than being better than others, you begin to truly live with purpose, peace, and power. Your journey is sacred. Your path is between you and Allah. Walk it with sincerity, and you will find what your soul has been searching for all along.